Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here. Yeah, there's another interview. So yeah, I'm making another video. I swear they're doing it on purpose because this one was actually posted on the 29th of August. So it's like they literally just keep releasing day after day after day after day. It's like there's even one I've skipped. Like it's got to be the end somewhere. So this one says, I spoke with Final Fantasy XIV's Naoki Yoshida about Monster Hunter, Beastmaster, and the collaborations he'd love to do next. I'm a maniac about One Piece. We get a One Piece collaboration, Final Fantasy XIV. That will be a time. So this interview is with techradar.com. I'll include a link to it in the description of the YouTube video. Always be sure to go there and actually give them the click. And thank you, Riz Wood, for the interview itself. For Final Fantasy XIV online players, director and producer Naoki Yoshida likely needs some introduction. His deep love, yeah, we get all this. At this point, we've been through this with so many interviews, I don't think I need to do it. The game has certainly had its ups and downs in recent years, including controversial shuttering of certain mods and unease of the potential timing of the next major expansion. Sorry, that one's on me. Still plenty to look forward to in the current Dawn Trail patch cycle. Gamescom 2025, I sat down with Yoshida for around 45 minutes to quiz him on everything from the highly anticipated Monster Hunter Wilds collaboration and Beastmaster content to his thoughts on Dawn Trail themes and kinds of otherworldly collaborations he'd love to add in Final Fantasy XIV. So this first section is about Omega Planetes. This is about the Monster Hunter Wilds collaboration. My interview came right off the back of the announcement of the return of Monster Hunter to Final Fantasy XIV and vice versa at Opening Night Live. Monster Hunter Wilds is set to get the iconic Omega as the new large monster encounter. Meanwhile, Wild's flagship monster Arkveld will touch down in the world of Final Fantasy XIV. I was curious as to why Square Enix and Capcom landed on the robotic Omega when Final Fantasy XIV has no shortage of more fitting creatures such as the dragon, Shinryu, and Nidhogg. True story. They actually suggested that Nidhogg would make a pretty good addition historically. Yoshi-P had said Bahamut at one point and then had moved over to Nidhogg while also thinking that, Final Fantasy XIV could get Diablos. But they ended up going with what they did. And we actually know why. This is mentioned in a ton of other interviews. We're talking with the Capcom team for Monster Hunter Wilds, and they told me they wanted to achieve a sort of worldview beyond which lies an unknown civilization. For that reason, they wanted Omega to make an appearance because it would expand upon that worldview which they have in the game. He went on to describe the differences between 14's Omega and the one we encounter in Wilds with a rather sentimental reasoning. So the interview I skipped, this was actually a key detail in it. We actually know a decent bit about the premise of the stories. Let's see if they go into it here. When we think about what happened after the battle with Omega in 14, we remember that we have a smaller Omega which actually has a heart. It travels around with Alpha the Chocobo, and so from a player perspective, they might feel bad for attacking the Omega that we know now. Yoshida kept quiet in terms of story, but said we can expect the adorable Alpha and Omega pair to make an appearance in Wilds alongside our hunters. In the other interview, they very specifically state that Omega Planetes is a different AI inside of Omega's body. We have seen other Omega-style models. We fight one in a dungeon, as a matter of fact. So it wouldn't be too surprising if either A, it's a Monster Hunter Wilds AI with all the weird kind of tech that exists in Wilds as you get deeper into the story, or if it's another Omicron AI entirely. The 14 team has been supervising the story, so we expect something hopefully of similarly high quality. Looking forward to that. As for Final Fantasy XIV side of things, Yoshida didn't give much away about the encounter with Arkveld. I thought it would take the form of a trial, similar to Rathalos. Yoshida said to expect more details at Tokyo Game Show. So we now know we'll get more details on this at TGS, so I'm looking forward to it. Wonder if that means there's a live letter at TGS or it's just going to be a stage show and it's going to be mentioned there. Not sure which it is. I haven't seen a live letter announcement of any kind, but I wouldn't expect a live letter yet. I wouldn't expect another live letter till after 0.5 at the earliest, unless they plan on doing 3 live letters before 7.35. But man, there's going to be more interviews at the very least, so we're going to have some news coming for the next little bit of time. The content for both titles has been designed so that both casual and hardcore players can enjoy it. Lines up with how Trials go traditional and normal and extreme, and I'm assuming Omega will work the same way. But let's wait and see. Let's see, top 100. Briefly, I moved the conversation over to what plans might be for Final Fantasy XIV's level cap. This discussion has been coming up for me a little bit more as of late, too, in my comment sections. Each and every expansion so far has raised the level cap for all jobs besides limited jobs like Blue Mage and the upcoming Beastmaster by 10. As of Dawn Trail, we're now sitting at a satisfying round 100. With such a clean number, and with the concerns that any further increases could make grinding levels a slog or intimidate new players, I asked Yoshida if there were plans to change things up for 8.0. We are doing various discussions in the development team, Yoshida replied, and the next direction we're taking has already been decided. Though for us, the important thing is not the level itself, it's providing the sensation of steady growth to the player. Having said that, he continued, level as a concept is something that is common across RPGs in general, so it's an easy to understand concept. Yeah, I won't be surprised if they just go to level 110, but no matter what they call it, no matter how it's presented, effectively you will start the expansion at 1 power level, and by the time you finish the story on your first job, you will be at the intended capped power level. I don't think they're going to be doing any sort of like extended power grind that continues after, or use this to drastically change the way that progressing through an expansion story or the amount of power we gain throughout that is going to be achieved. They could easily just create something called like master levels and have master levels 1 to 10. And then it functions literally exactly the same. Like I just don't think the functional use of the 10 level range is going to change in any capacity. The only thing I could possibly imagine is giving you more freedom to choose which skills and upgrades you get across the 10 levels, but at the end of it, you have all the same upgrades, so it's not like an actual spec or talent tree. It's just maybe you want a skill earlier because it looks or sounds cooler or something like that. It's like literally the most I could imagine them actually doing. However, that is conjecture. What Yoshida said next has me inclined to believe that the level cap will indeed just increase again, this time to 110 if we're following traditional patterns. When it comes to questions about whether this is going to be a permanent policy moving forward, that's still another thing we would need to discuss down the line. Yeah, that next line does make it sound like it's just going to be levels 101 to 110. At the end of the day, we need to think about how we can deliver that sensation of growth, and there's no firm answer behind that. So as of right now, we can't say what scheme there will be in terms of level cap being lifted or any details behind that. But what I can say is we have decided on the next direction. I mean, that line after does make it sound like it won't just be the 10 levels, but I suspect it will still be identical in function. On a similar note, I wanted to ask Yoshida about how the team plans to evolve jobs in the battle system moving forward. At level 100, many jobs, if not most, are beginning to feel like they've reached their logical conclusion. Been a big problem for a while, actually. I mean, we've seen some jobs, expansion after expansion, just get an extra button to press at the end of everything. And while sometimes that button can be great, sometimes that button causes problems, even. Gunbreaker, I know, has had moments of just too much going on inside of a burst window, and balancing to get it right at any given time can be a little bit chaotic in a sense. But let's see what he has to say. Not only do most jobs have some form of big flashy burst window finisher like Perfectio or Radiant Encore, but Dawn Trail started introducing traits that upgraded our role actions instead of exclusively job specific upgrades. We do have quite a big plan for jobs moving forward, said Yoshida, but it's quite difficult for me to convey the nuances at this time. When it comes to the current content that we have in terms of battle and design, we don't want to destroy that experience as it is right now. I mean, I don't understand what that really means. I mean, the first part I do, like, obviously he's not going to get into the nitty gritty of job changes when they really feel like they need more time to explain that. That being said, I don't know if they're trying to say that whatever job changes we get won't invalidate the experiences we're having right now, meaning that it'll still all make sense within the context of playing Final Fantasy XIV. Or I don't know. Let me see what else he has to say. So keeping that in mind, we don't want to incorporate major changes to that, but what we do want to do is make jobs more interesting for players to use. It sounds like the actual fight design is not drastically changing, but the means with which we actually play the jobs is meant to be changing more to make them more interesting. That's kind of in line. So as a reminder, they said that Dawn Trail was going to focus a lot more on finding more interesting encounter design, and that 8.0 would focus instead on jobs, and they didn't want to do all of that at once. So I think what we're seeing is Dawn Trail's gradual shift into what our encounter design will be going forward, which is a very good sign. Of all the things Dawn Trail's had problems with, encounter design is very rarely one of them. There are some misbalances here or there, but I would say generally we've gotten fantastic encounters throughout all of Dawn Trail, and I feel like continuing along that trend, they're already on the right path. So keeping down that path would be a good idea. Just keeping that in mind, we incorporate major changes. I'm personally expecting reworks for jobs that feel a little underwhelming, like Summoner, but I'm curious to learn about any universal changes beyond that. What this big plan entails, be that a shakeup to the universal 2-minute burst window or added depth or complexities, remains to be seen. Yeah, at this point, it's all speculation and conjecture. Nothing anybody says about it and what they think they will do is in any way a limitation or an expectation. It's all conjecture. So keep that in mind as the months go by. Unleash the Beastmaster. I then had a chance to speak with Yoshida about one of Dawn Trail's most highly anticipated piece of content. I don't know about that, but we're definitely the most curious about it because we know the least about it. The new Beastmaster limited job. Much like Blue Mage, Beastmaster will presumably differ from the standard Disciples of War or Magic, including Monk, Dark Knight, and Black Mage. Glad we specifically named those three. And that it will have its own unique progression systems. Beastmaster was revealed in the run-up to Dawntrail's release, but we haven't heard much on it since then. Thankfully, Yoshida was able to shed some light on the limited job for me, including an estimated release window. We know this from another interview. Regarding the release, I'll be clear. It is scheduled to be released in the patch 7.5 series. It means you can likely expect the content to arrive around spring or summer of 2026. Oh yeah. In terms of the concept, you ally yourself with monsters, then these monsters grow so they can join you in dedicated battle content. That sounds like Beastmaster. It doesn't sound like you'd be going into the open world pressing charm and just holding on to them for 2 or 3 minutes. It sounds more akin to what you were seeing in Bozia, where the Beastmasters there effectively had pets that they had grown close to and trusted and were battle companions to them. We see this with several of the Beastmaster bosses, including Lion himself. So it's no surprise that it kind of works that way. But it sounds like that's a pretty decently executable idea that is in line with what Beastmaster was. This is going to, now of course it could also just be Pokemon like, but I'm not so optimistic to think that we're actually getting straight up Pokemon in Final Fantasy XIV. It's going to be something completely different to anything we've done in 14 before, and it's exclusive to this limited job. We've been investing a lot of resources in developing this content. Team is super excited about it. So specifically, can join you in dedicated battle content. So we obviously had the carnival, or have the mass carnival. And so it sounds like they'll have some sort of equivalent to that. What that actually means is a relatively large mystery. Because without fully knowing what the actual combat system is, it's all conjecture. Speculation is going to go crazy, but it's one of those cases where it's just speculation can make it worse. Because then if it's not those things and it's something closer to standard, but it's still different, then it's going to be in a weird space. I just really hope they put a lot more resources into dedicated Beastmaster content instead of how we saw Blue Mage just fall so far away from the Mass Carnival after the initial implementation. I'm actually not worried about the initial implementation of Beastmaster. It's subsequent implementations that I'm very worried about. Investing a lot of resource. Team is super excited. I asked if the Beastmaster questline would tie into the Shadowbringers expansion Save the Queen content. Good question. During that, we dealt with an Imperial Beastmaster, Lion, and got to witness his power and beast taming firsthand as we aimed to help liberate the Bosian Southern Front from the Garlean Empire's control. Yoshida's answer was interesting. From a lore perspective, there will be a connection between Save the Queen and Beastmaster. That said, Save the Queen is not part of the main scenario, so of course some players haven't experienced it. With that in mind, there will be a connection, but whether or not characters from Save the Queen make an appearance, I'm keeping that under wraps for now. It would be interesting to see Lion show up at all, only because Lion is MIA. We know enough about what happened with Lion after the events of Save the Queen, and we have somewhat of an idea that there's things happening underneath the surface. Things are brewing in that regard, but we may not revisit that anytime soon. That's really up to whether or not they want to get Matsuno on, or if he's going to pass the torch for somebody else to write stuff for that. So it's hard pressed for me to believe that any of the characters will directly be present, as opposed to characters who know who Lion is, maybe learned it from him and then like defected or something like that. So if, or maybe just knew him in general from where he learned it. So I'm hard pressed to believe he'll show up, but it sounds like you probably want to have the Bosian storyline for Save the Queen done before this, just in case. Get ready for the next battle. Final Fantasy XIV Online is no stranger to collaborations. Well, we saw this part in the title with other brands and franchises. The upcoming crossover with Monster Hunter Wilds will mark the second time Square Enix and Capcom have collaborated, but there have been plenty of others throughout the game's online existence. These include collabs with Dragon Quest, Yokai Watch, and Fall Guys. Just for fun, I quizzed Yoshida on other collaborations he'd love to bring to 14, no matter how ridiculous and unrealistic. Yoshida has spoken about his love for Diablo and World of Warcraft in the past, which he reiterated here. But there are others he'd like the chance to work with as well. Yeah, he's mentioned Diablo and World of Warcraft a lot. Soken is huge in Overwatch. True story. Last I checked, Square Enix publishes Overwatch in Japan. So even less of a surprise. Unless that's changed. That was definitely the case at some point. But Square Enix actually was the publisher of Overwatch in Japan last I checked. So I'm a maniac about One Piece, and I'm super fan of Evangelion as well. Oh, and of course it goes out saying, but Gundam too. Yeah, I mean, there are references to stuff like that, especially Gundam, throughout many portions of Final Fantasy XIV's history. One Piece would be wild, though. Dawn Trail would have been the time to do it. So, just saying. Yes, as a fan of Diablo, I spent many thousands of hours playing the game, and I never got sick of it. I love Diablo so much, I would want to make a Diablo game myself. Teaser? I have huge respect for all the staff working at Blizzard, not only as a gamer, but as a developer. So I'd really love to achieve some sort of collaboration with them. Surprisingly, Yoshida then turned the question back to me, wondering what collaboration I'd like to see in 14. Being a huge Tekken fan, I didn't hesitate to say I'd love to see a crossover with the Bandai Namco fighting game, perhaps a new trial against Devil Kazuya. That would be wild. Yeah, I mean, they collabed with Final Fantasy 16. Of course, Final Fantasy 16, we did work with the Tekken team. Do have a close relationship with them, so I'll let them know. There you go, folks. If we do end up getting a Tekken collaboration, you know who to thank. And bridging the gap. Closing out the interview, I wanted to get Yoshida's thoughts on the thematic parallels between Endwalker and Dawn Trail. Okay, this is likely to be a little bit more fluffy, I suppose. Not a bad insight, but a lot of people have drawn the comparisons between Living Memory and Amarot, and a lot of very similar themes. Endwalker marks the endpoint of, at the time, the near decade-long Hydaelyn and Zodiac story arc. Dawn Trail then marked a new beginning in terms of story, transporting the warrior to the far-flung western continent of Toral. It begins as a quest for us to help facilitate the right of succession to the Dawn Throne, morphs into an unapologetically sci-fi adventure, but overall, Dawn Trail dealt heavily with themes of death and the world we leave behind for those who come after. It's quite the mirror to Endwalker, which encouraged players to find the beauty in the life they have and reject nihilism. The thing we wanted to convey in Endwalker was that even when you reach the end of something, that's not the end of everything, players should not give up. There's still hope. We wanted to give them strength and hope to do their best for the endeavor for tomorrow. When it came to Dawn Trail, we didn't want to ask the question of what tomorrow would be or the end of the world. Instead, we wanted to convey more about the reason behind what death is and what is the meaning of the end. The reason why we pose these questions is because our real-life society right now, there's a continued evolution of the digitization of everything. With that in the backdrop, we wanted to approach the question, how will we live tomorrow? And what is the question that we're posing in the story moving forward? Yeah, there was an interview where somebody asked Yoshi-P if he could be like immortalized in digital form if he would do it. So, I mean, I guess it's all kind of coming together in those same themes. As for where the main story could go from here, I also asked Yoshida if he was able to tease any upcoming locations the Warrior of Light may have heard of, namely Meracydia. Appreciate you asking this one. A huge region of much importance to the story that we otherwise know little about. I can't provide any specific details, but I have already decided when Meracydia will make an appearance and how. But what I can say, it's going to be quite a while away. So I'm going to assume that means not 8.0, which I've actually had a lot of people saying that Meracydia was probably not going to be 8.0. With the key in our hand with the Winterers, it's more likely that we will have to utilize a lot of what's at our disposal right now and actually explore some of the remaining other shards in order to kind of close the loop on a lot of that stuff that's going on, a lot of the interdimensional fusion and the threat that actually pertains to, and why it's such a huge focus for the Winterers and everything. So it won't be too surprising to see us actually do some multiple shard hopping next expansion. I think. I don't think it's unrealistic we could go to a couple now that we kind of have Meracydia. Obviously, with Winterers, people are thinking the Blind Frosts, you know, because it's cold there, winter. I mean, I can't say no, but you know, I'll think a little bit bigger than that, given the fact that we have an interdimensional travel key in our possession at the moment, and I feel like that's pretty important. When it comes to that point in the story, we'll be facing a lot of mysteries, and it's going to be quite some time ahead. I do want you to express your readership that I'm thinking about it very properly and firmly, and then that is the end of the interview. So some interesting insights into Beastmaster, into Meracydia, and into the collaborations again. But otherwise, very much in line with a lot of the other interviews that we've had over the last week. There have been some great questions and some pretty good answers coming out of all of the things that we've gotten since Gamescom dropped. And we are not too far from Tokyo Game Show, where we'll likely be learning a little bit more, both about the collaboration with Monster Hunter and its actual rewards and mechanics, but probably some other details as well. Now, everyone has already seen these, and hopefully we don't get a lot of repeat question and answers, but that'll be up to the Japanese media sites. We'll see what they have to say about all of that when the time comes. But that's going to be a wrap for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned. It's probably the last interview video. We got Relics on Tuesday. We got Cosmic on Tuesday. I want to focus on those for some video content and some other stuff as well that I have been putting on the back burner. But for now, that's a wrap for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then.